Yeah, so if you press space.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And, okay, I'll be able to play video, will I? We'll find out, I suppose. If not, I'll act it out. Thank you very much, my dear. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for sticking around till literally the last one. I feel like I'm that teacher who's like between you and the Christmas holidays, and I'm like, no, let's talk about history, guys. And you're like, no, I don't want to. So hopefully this won't be too tedious a task. I've got some videos for you to watch, and some of them haven't already been spoiled by other presentations. By being stolen from me. So hopefully we'll have a little bit of fun. I want to talk to you today about viral. This, like I said, was literally a quote that one of my lovely colleagues asked me, gave me some blog about something or other, and just said, oh, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned, could you make it go viral? I'm like, yeah, I've got this button on my desk and we just press it we only do it for the really good stuff though. And he was like, cool, great, walked off, and I'm like, oh, babes. So I want to talk to you about that, but also, whilst talking about it, dispel some myths, because it is a buzzword. Viral means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I want to hopefully talk to you about it in context, and also within the context of broader social media content strategy. So without further ado, I'm on Twitter, Jordan J. McDowell, if you're interested. As has already been said, I work for Co-op. I work within the Co-op digital business within the Co-op Group family. So we are tasked with transforming our Co-op for the future and the internet era. Our Co-op is 4.5 million Co-op members strong. We've been around 170 years. We've had a rocky few years of late, but we're back on track. All of our businesses are performing against their competitors and above the market rate, which is wonderful. But if we're going to be around for another 170 years, we need to make the best of the internet era. And without getting preachy, because I could do this all day, a co-op is owned by the people that use it. If you've got a blue co-op card, you own the co-op. And if any business model can make the most of the internet, it's a cooperative, because the internet is a space where we collaborate and we cooperate together. The internet is made by people cooperating. So the internet's a very special thing to Co-op. And my team are the digital engagement team, and we act as that a centre of excellence for all sorts of different disciplines within digital, specifically social media, but also general storytelling, web optimization, that kind of thing. And we act as the touch points between your general communications, marketing and PR teams and customer service teams, who all have an objective and a requirement of digital and or social media, and we help to make them leverage that in the best way possible. So, and if you're interested in finding out more about the transformation of Co-op through digital, this blog is updated nearly every day with everything that we're up to. So if you just search social media, you'll find out specifically around what my team are up to. It's really interesting. So, we're going to talk about a few things today. First of all, what is viral? Why should you care about it? How do you go viral, with some examples, both planned and reactive? And how do you stop going viral? Because sometimes it's not a good thing. With some real examples from other businesses and also our own, which I think will end the day off on a high for you lot, not me. So let's start with what is viral. So I've got this little video, and we'll find out if it plays. I won't play the whole thing, which is probably a conversation that a lot of those that do work in digital communications have probably had with a stakeholder before. Oh, hold on. Maybe I can hover and click. Oh no. Good. Oh, well, it is good to play. I'll figure it out. I'll go back in a minute. Oh, no.
Hold on. Where's the no sound? Let's turn that up.
Oh,
it's all on silent. Hold on. Why is that not working?
I'm going to have to do acting, aren't I?
You are.
Oh, my God.
There's nothing
Well,
like
whilst
a live
you figure
event,
that out,
is
this is your stakeholder, and this lady here is the communications expert. And he has literally walked into her office and said, hello, communications expert, I want a viral video. And she says, okay, what do you want in a viral video? And he says, I want a viral video. And she says, okay, what do you want? And he says, I want a viral video. I want it to have cats, I want it to have cute children, and I want everyone to be talking about it. I want it to make me a respected marketeer within the marketing profession.
But that it's essentially impossible to make a video that goes viral on purpose.
And that's pretty much all I wanted to show you, because it's quite a long video.
And only a tiny handful get seen by more than the person who made it and his mom. If people don't see your video and right away want to tell everyone they know about it, it's not viral.
I'm back.
It's just a video. Do you even know what audience you were trying to reach?
And then I'm going to go...
Or if you should tab at the top there.
I'm at the end, what?
That one.
That one.
Give that one a go.
We got there, guys. Okay. Are you still with me? So that's the general conversation that a lot of people will have had before. And we can distill that down to the idea that viral content is always frivolous. He wants cats, he wants cute kids, he wants it to make him look good within the marketing profession. He's not mentioned what his business does, he's not mentioned what his product or service is, he's not mentioned anything about any of that. He just wants cats and kids. We've also got her response to him, if you were able to hear the video, was that it's actually impossible to plan viral content. Now, there is some truth in that, and we're going to talk about that and try to break that apart throughout our little chat today. But I want to come back to that because I don't think it is actually impossible. If it was completely impossible, no brand would ever bother trying. And then the last one is, like, what he comes back to her saying that viral content makes us respected marketeers. We can distill that further by saying viral's stupid, it's impossible, but it makes me, and maybe my brand, look really good. So we're going to come back to these pinpoints throughout today to just see whether or not we can interrogate them a little bit more. Before we get into a little bit more around what viral actually is and some examples, I just want to reset our minds in terms of thinking about the world of the internet right now. We've already had some great stats thrown in from other people's presentations, and the beginning one from Emma was really, really good in terms of giving us some focus for today. But in terms of specifically what I want to talk about, here's a few killer stats that I think will help put some context around what it is that I'm trying to say. 90% of all online content was created in the last 24 months. What? Oh my God. That's quite, I mean, you can just think about all of the content on the internet that's ever existed, and 90% of it was created in 24 months, and this is only going to get faster, and it's only going to get more overwhelming. On Facebook, user-generated content featuring a brand drives 6.9% higher engagement than branded content. So this user-generated, or UGC, is when a user, your consumer, your influencers, your stakeholders creates content featuring or around your brand or your proposition, independent in a way of you, and then shares that. We're going to talk a lot more about that. User-generated content, again, makes up 50% of the top videos on Facebook and 32% on YouTube. Interestingly, the top 10 videos from YouTube that we saw earlier on, I don't think we saw one brand, did we? No brands were there whatsoever, so come on, brands. What are you doing? More people own a mobile phone than a toothbrush. I was like, no way. It was an old stat from the Mobile Marketing Association of Asia in 2011, and I was like, no, I'm also quite old, I'm not going to use it. Then I found that it was ratified by the 60-Second Marketeer, which is a really cool blog, in 2016. He did this full analysis of the available data in open data segments that he was able to interrogate, and was able to actually come out with the conclusion, yeah, kinda, actually, this is true. I mean, that's just petrifying, isn't it? We should just all give up now. Although Colgate, like, maybe, I don't know, this could be viral, I don't know. So, shut up, Jordan, what does viral actually mean? And I think this is a term that my team and I kind of workshopped a little bit. There's all sorts of different variations online. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts if you think this is totally off. But to go viral is to successfully or accidentally leverage the shareable nature of social media so that users willingly spread a message widely. Some people like to add the variable of fast, they like the speed in there, but I think one business or one viral content's timeline versus another is quite different. I think fast is relative. I think what's really important here is that users willingly spread this message without much incentive. They willingly take that forth and make it go viral. Obviously, we're also leveraging the shareable nature of social media, so it's creating content and messages that's specifically for social media. It's rare something goes viral online that isn't in some way been created for online. We've got examples where, like, the BBC interview and stuff, but similarly, that had to be created into an online version of that interview for it to go viral. That's a tedious link, but it's an important thing to remember. Okay, so how do we leverage the shareable nature of social media? Emotion. We talked a little bit in the video presentation and a couple of other ones about why people do what they do on the internet. And a huge one is emotion. You've got to make them feel something in order for them to do something. Because when you're scrolling through your Facebook feed, interestingly, a friend of mine that works at Facebook said they've just done some analysis in the news feed, and users, their attention span is 1.7 seconds as they're going through the news feed. That's what we're spending our marketing budget on, guys. 1.7 seconds. I mean, for crying out loud. But emotion, if you are going to capture their attention in that news feed, you've got to be making them feel something. There are others, intrigue and interest. Like, for example, around the Blue Planet thing, a lot of the stuff that was shared around Blue Planet was emotion. It was sadness and anger around plastics. But similarly, there were other contents like that were a little bit more like amazing facts about wildlife that you could say is not so emotional, it's a little bit more in here, but it's all similar area of thought. With that in mind, here's some examples. So you can plan to be funny. We've got a really great example here. Oh, God, is it almost worth it to click onto it? Maybe I'll do some acting for you again. This is a great example. Has anyone seen this advert? It was from last year, Burger King. They deliberately did an advert that actually speaks to your Google Home Assistant. So interestingly, this is actually a video of a video. This is a user actually who posted this video on YouTube. And essentially in the 15-minute pre-roll on YouTube, this person holding a Whopper says, "I've not got enough time to tell you about how amazing a Burger King Whopper is, so what I'll do is, okay Google, what is a Burger King Whopper?" And then the advert stops and Google picks up and tells you. Interestingly, it takes him as long to say that as it does her to say her bit, but anyway. So that's really quite cool. That went crazy because especially it came out just as Google Home came out, and which was obviously really highly publicised last year around Google versus Alexa, etc., etc. So really cool, really fun, great. You can also be hilarious accidentally. We've already seen this example today. It's my favourite video ever. I just think it's absolutely amazing. There's a follow-up one when the BBC got the family back in to say, what? And the family are just like, oh my God. We have no idea what happened. So yeah, lots and lots of fun. You can shock on purpose. This example here, really great one, I will share the links and slides, is from Lynx. Has anyone seen this one from last year? Lynx are in a big push to change the perception of their brand. They've been considered in the past, they've been accused of being quite misogynistic, quite laddie, quite, you know, the person that would wear Lynx would read Nuts and Zoo, which one's folded, another one's banned from Co-op. Just a plug there for you. You know, that idea of being like the 80s man that picks up the page 3 on public transport and isn't ashamed that he's looking at it. That man doesn't really exist anymore. Lynx has had to move with the times. This advert is really quite powerful. They partnered with Calm, which is a campaign against something mental health. For men's mental health awareness, and this one here was made up of a voiceover saying, is it okay for guys to, and then all sorts of different things like be nervous, cry, belittle spoon, experiment with other guys, all sorts of different things, and at the end you figure out that they're the most searched terms, I'm getting goosebumps, most searched terms for is it okay for guys, and they just said, just go and look now and you can see, and then the idea is that we need to abolish we need to raise more awareness on men's mental health and the idea of toxic masculinity. That was a really long one, isn't it? That's a detailed and complicated message to get across in a viral video, and they were very successful in doing that last year. You can anger by accident. The Kendall Jenner Pepsi one. Wow. A really interesting part when Camilla was talking about seasoning. When you've got all those ideas and then you have to actually put it within the context of what's happening right now, and even more so with social media. We'll talk about plastics a little bit in a minute, but the conversation of plastics has changed dramatically over the course of just about 6 or 7 months, thanks to David Attenborough. And what will have seemed in the sort of workshop room as a really great idea, you know, it's talking about Black Lives Matter and the women's movement, and it's got Kendall Jenner and people love her, and then in execution it's just really hit the mark completely wrong. For those of you that haven't seen the actual advert, go watch the advert and then just go and watch all of the parody versions. This one actually, I wasn't going to play the whole thing because it just goes into like real footage of like police brutality, but it's just a short version of the actual advert. So make users feel something. Cute, angry, annoyed, fearful, amazed, sad, anything else. Make them feel something. You can't just go ahead with an actual sales pitch. There has to be something more to it. Picking back up on those pinpoints that I said that we were going to come back to, I think it's safe to say some of the ones that we saw were stupid, particularly the ones that were accidental or hit the mark and went viral for the wrong reason. But I don't think we can say the same about Lynx. I don't think we can say the same about Burger King. I don't think they were stupid or frivolous. I think they were innovative and interesting, particularly the Burger King one, which was funny, but it wasn't stupid. It definitely spoke true to their brand, and it still felt and sounded like Burger King. It didn't sound like they were trying to be anyone else. Similarly, the Lynx one was powerful and important, and a really different way of us considering and consuming the Lynx brand on social media. Moving on, I know we're going at pace, but there's a lot to talk about here. Why should you care about viral? I think this is an interesting sort of diagram that some of you will have seen. I realise the colours aren't great, don't worry, this is just faces talking to one another. It's from Martin Numier, who wrote a marketing manual like years and years ago. Still a really useful one, and there's all sorts of iterations of it that gets really, really detailed. But essentially, marketing is one person saying to another, I have great products. And I know that this isn't robust, but it gives you an idea. Advertising is someone saying to another person, I have great products, I have great products, I have great products. But branding is when that consumer comes back to the brand and says, I understand you have great products. You can replace branding with PR, and I think even more so now, influencer engagement. When we're talking about reviews in Amazon, the idea that someone else saying you're great versus your own is so much more powerful. This is that type of thing that I want you to be starting to think about when other people talk about your brand and your business on your behalf. That's what we want to get a little bit closer to. That's earned media. So I don't really want to focus too much on viral now. I want to talk about earned media as a whole. And for those of you that aren't hugely familiar with what earned media actually is, earned media on social media, at least, is everything that anyone says about your brand or business or proposition that's interesting to you organically. Your customer service comments, when people are just saying, I just popped into co-op for whatever reason. All of that is interesting and earned media. It's also made up of that user-generated content that we mentioned earlier, which can be somewhat incentivized by your influencer engagement. Maybe someone just writes reviews on products because they like to, like that Facebook one that we mentioned earlier. Media coverage, so your PR coverage, your influencer content, and your potential planned and or accidental viral reach from any content that you do actually distribute as part of your content strategy. All of this is earned media. So viral is only one part of that, and if you're only focusing on this one thing, you're not making the most of all of the other potential within this spectrum of earned media. But similarly, earned media is, so let's move on. Earned media is one part of a content strategy for social media. You've got your paid, which you talk a lot about in terms of Facebook today. Your owned media, which you could say is your organic, but it's also a lot more than that. It's like your YouTube channel. It's where you aggregate and consolidate your social content on your website. Do you pull feeds in? What do you do with that? And then you've also got your earned. So looking at all of those three main strands of where content lives and how you distribute that is really, really important. And that's what I want to talk about from now on. This doesn't mean ads plus organic plus cats. Oh, look, it's made all my emojis go weird. It doesn't mean that at all. Remember, considering some of the examples that we've given today, you've got to have, your brand voice has to be there. You shouldn't be trying to sound like or be someone different. It still has to feel and sound and look and feel authentic, as well as taking into consideration the fact that you want to have a cue for someone. You want to make them feel something if you want them to share it. I know it's a lot. Bear with me. Your branding context, never forget that, especially when you're seasoning and making sure that your idea is still relevant now as it was a few weeks ago when you first came up with it. No one wants a Pepsi Max moment again. Okay, we've talked about what viral is. We've talked about it in the context of earned media. We've had even a graph from an old CIM textbook. We've had all of that. Actually, how do we do it? So let's talk about a planned viral event. And I'm going to introduce you to Cheers the Co-op Way, which we did at Co-op in December. So co-op is a co-op, and our co-op members own our co-op. But other than voting in our AGM and standing for election, which is all a bit boring, but very important, we want our members to get involved in other ways. So as part of the digital transformation of our co-op, we've been exploring ways in which co-op members can get involved and cooperate with our co-op online in ways outside of our democracy. One of the ways that we've done that is by launching a product called Join In, which very simply is an opportunity for members to join in and shape products and services at Co-op. It can be as simple as filling in a survey about your favourite pizza toppings, which our buying team take in as you would in kind of like market research essentially, but all the way through to actually creating and designing full products. So we had a Co-op wine that was designed by over 3,500 members over the course of last year, everything from in February deciding whether or not it'd be white or red, all the way through on social media and digital media, collaborating in different ways to design the name, design the label, vote on the winning label, what liquid it was going to be, what region it was going to come from. And we ended up with a gorgeous Pinot Grigio from California that was actually on the shelves ready to consume in November for the Christmas rush, which was really wonderful. So we wanted to celebrate that. We decided to do a campaign on social media to do that. We already had some video content because as well as the wine, we had ales that members that had a lesser extent of involvement in, they just helped with the tasting notes. We also had a gin where they helped with the spice. It was a spice gin, so they decided what spices would go in the end one, but they didn't actually have full control over what was going on. The wine was the sort of big daddy of this. We had content in terms of actually telling that story that was going to be our paid content strand, looking at those 3 strands again, that we distributed across social media, targeting our members and also the members within that set that are interested in things like wine tasting and IPAs and craft ales and that kind of thing, using all of those demographics and parameters that were mentioned earlier. Then for our own content, we hosted a live stream. We hosted this we have a wine room in the office. It's amazing. It literally does look like this, and I have a key to it, so yeah. And this is where the wine team literally sample and do all of our batch testing and come up with new blends and stuff like that, and there's a big spittoon in there. So we decided to host a live tasting of the 3 of these member-designed, member-shaped alcohols. And we had 3 of the different experts come in to talk about the story behind it and explain how you would taste this individual drink. And it was hosted by a YouTube star. She got over 60,000 subscribers on YouTube, and just so happens to live in Manchester locally, which is helpful for us. So she came in and she hosted it. So that was our own content. When it came to earned, this is a little bit of what it actually looked like before, during, and after our broadcast. But how did you do that? Did it just all happen magically? Of course it didn't. Let's look at those strands again of a successful content strategy. We have our paid pieces, the 2 main videos that I've already explained, our owned broadcast, as well as supplementary content like a Twitter moment, Instagram stories, you know the whole drill. And we had our online influencer activation, which I'm going to talk to you about in a minute, obviously our host and media engagement as well. So we basically sent out hampers filled with the 3 drinks to over 200 online influencers. All of them were co-op members, some of them were journalists. All of them had influence online, either their own following, their own blog, their own Instagram following. They had some form of audience online, but they were also a co-op member. And some of them were also colleagues, and some of them had also participated in the actual joining collaboration opportunity all the way through the year. So we sent them a hamper with the wines and everything in and invited them to join us for the live tasting. Save the wine, don't drink it right away. Save it, join us for the live tasting, we'll tell you more about the stories behind them. So that equaled this, because we'd been able to invite and also give a little bit more back to the influencers to say thank you for joining us and helping make our live stream a success. We're going to give you the booze, basically. It's an incentivized relationship, a tit-for-tat relationship, but none of these influencers were paid for their involvement. We also went big with the 200 or so that were invited, because when you're working with micro-influencers, so these are people that have like a few thousand followers, as opposed to the ones that have millions and millions of subscribers who you're going to have to get in a contractual arrangement with. When you work with micro-influencers, you want to go big because it's an economy of scale. Okay, still with me, right? Cool. Interestingly, I think a lot of you will be interested to see, this is the distribution of budget. So 50% of my budget went on that earned piece, so a lot of it paid for booze and postage, but also making sure that we could leverage that as best we could, making sure that the hamper, when it arrived, it was a proper experience, that we had the booklet in it that explained everything and the stories behind it, so that it didn't feel like, it felt like that it was something special. This was an exciting opportunity to get involved in. Only 10% on actually hosting that live stream, quite effective content to do, and then 40% on distributing my paid activity. The results, we trended nationally with the Co-op Way, which is really lovely. It wasn't our overall objective. Our overall objective is a little bit more specific than that, but it's a nice to have. 8 million earned impressions as a result of this activity. You'll notice I'm talking about earned impressions here, not about overall impressions. I'm not talking about owned or paid, because my paid were only 2 million, which is not to be sniffed at, because you've also got to look at, it's apples and pears when you're comparing it, because one impression of a paid advert is my full advert, full brand, full content, it's all me. Whereas an earned impression, I'm one part of a bigger story, because that earned impression is via an influencer. So you can't weigh up the brand callback on both as like, it's apples and pears, like I said, but is that apples and oranges, I mean? Apples and pears, isn't that stairs in Cockney rhyming slang? Yeah, amazing. But so you generally want more earned impressions than paid impressions, but this is still a really juicy ratio. Interestingly, 70% of the conversation around this whole activity was driven by the influencers that we invited. This tells us two things. I didn't invite duds, and they did what we wanted them to do. And it means that they weren't the only ones participating. They brought their audience with them, which is the overall aim of this. My CPM, so this is cost per 1,000 people reach, again looking at earned, is less than a penny, based on the actual appropriation of budget, specifically activating our earned content here, and looking at the the overall impressions. So this is very, very low. I'd have been happy if this was like £1. We did all this in 6 hours. So all of these results that I've just showed you stopped at midnight on that night. We started streaming at 6, I think. It was like a 10, 13-minute stream, and we achieved this in 6 hours. So I think in terms of scales of whether or not something's fast or not, I think this is pretty fast. Thank you very much. But of course, our paid activity continued on into that, engaging people that involved themselves in this live stream with the paid-for content, as well as our general member audience that I was always going to be talking to anyway. And this took us all the way through into December. Another example, which I haven't got time to go into today, but if you're interested, this is one that BDA worked on us a little bit with in 2016's Christmas, so it is a while ago now, was our reverse advent. It's a great story. If you're interested, Brandwatch, which is one of the social intelligence platforms that a lot of big brands use and that we use, have a blog that I wrote about all of this, name-checking BDA. So if you just pop on there, brandwatch.com, and search reverse advent on their blog, you'll find it. The one thing why you'd probably be interested in having a look at this one is because this achieved 75 million earned impressions in 2016, so thank you, I know. It was really, really great. A lot of hard work, and there's a lot of reason, it's a very different strategy that we approached there. It was an existing viral trend that we decided we wanted to own and we jumped in on. But it's an interesting story if you want to find out a little bit more about this. I think it's safe to say that this, talking about members cooperating and shaping the co-op that they own, and the execution of the content and how we did it, I don't think you can say it's stupid. I think you can say it's hard, really hard, but it's not impossible. If you plan it effectively, you appropriate your budget effectively, you don't consider going viral as the be-all and end-all. It's part of earned, and it's part of a wider strategy. They all ladder together and they all support one another, then you can make it happen. And I don't care whether or not it makes me look good, but I think it makes the co-op look good, because we reach not only members, not only influential members on social media, and not only will we be able to explain to them how they can get involved in the business they own, above and beyond scary, boring, democratic stuff, we actually also were able to reach a much wider audience by trending, and by reaching people that aren't members and that don't really understand why co-op is potentially different. Reactive viral event. I'm probably already over time. I'm going to go. Am I already over time? Oh, I'm going to go really quick. So this is really quick. This is Fairtrade Tea the Co-op Way. So one of our big businesses, obviously, is the food retailer, and Fairtrade is a key thing that we do. We've been doing it longer than there has been a Fairtrade Foundation, but some of our competitors have decided to step away from it. This is an analysis of all of the conversation around British grocers throughout last year. This is looking at agricultural conversation, stuff about farming. This is looking at diet and health, ethical trade conversation, which is also Fairtrade, legislation and sustainability, which is also plastics. You can see here in July, all of a sudden, conversation about ethical trade and British grocers skyrocketed. A major retailer decided to back away from fair trade, and people were not happy about it. But it presented us an opportunity. So all of these people are talking about fair trade, and we're really good on fair trade. So within a matter of a few days, we collaborated with the Fair Trade Foundation to come up with something that reiterated the importance of fair trade tea and why it's different and why it's important. And we also came up with some more owned content that actually, we basically announced something earlier than we were planning to. We are launching a new Kenyan fair trade project specifically to support the tea farm that we have out there in Kenya. So we pulled all this together really, really quickly and worked with the Fair Trade Foundation to create this co-branded content, because again, they're acting like an influencer here, because they can talk on our behalf in a much more powerful way than we can. And we targeted the people that were talking about it. Also, using a really cool tool, one of the in the Brandwatch family, if you're interested in social intelligence, I can talk to you a little bit more about it afterward. We found anyone that's got in their bio on Twitter, fair trade or hashtag fair trade. We found over 2,000 people. Now, we think these people are so into fair trade, they probably work in it, they're an absolute expert. And all we did was export that list and tweeted them the link to our blog and just say, hey, don't know if you're interested, here's a blog. We didn't go for the juggling, we didn't call out the competitor retailer, that's not what we're about. We were just saying, don't know if you're interested, here's some information about what we're doing with Fairtrade Tea. This reached over 23.5 million people in a week, which was really, really quite ridiculous. So 31st of July to 7th of August. My paid impressions were 1.2. Again, this isn't to be sniffed at. It's just giving you a comparison between potential earned reach versus what paid. The two work together, but you can go crazy if you really get behind earned properly. Again, it ain't stupid. It was hard, but it's not impossible. And again, it's talking about important things to important people and in an important time. Okay, these are the really quick ones. So sometimes going viral ain't such a good thing. And so how do we stop that happening? Oh no, look at my emojis.
They're kind of weird but nice.
They're kind of cute, yeah, like a weird little pseudo brand. This is my team represented in emojis. We have, yeah, it's not word. So the importance of social media teams. The team that I work with are all wonderful social natives. We're all in our 20s and we all live and breathe it. We are always on social media. Co-op is manned between 8 in the morning till 9:15 at night, unless something kicks off and you're on all night. We man weekends as well, bank holidays, even Christmas Day. It was Ian's Christmas, the one just gone. Because social media never stops, and it's important that we're there to be able to understand what people are talking about at any given time and help nip things in the bud. Because a lot of the time when things spiral in terms of anti-brand sentiment, user-generated content that you don't want out there, it's because no one was there to jump on it quickly enough. Sometimes you can't stop it happening. In the best will in the world, sometimes people just want to share funny shit that's about a brand because it's fun. But if you can get in there early enough and help dispel some of the confusion and the myths surrounding whatever it is that's detracting from your brand, that's really, really important. So the importance of social media teams can't be underestimated. Also, giving them the encouragement and the empowerment to represent your brand on the front lines, because it's not an easy job talking to people on social media and representing a brand. It's certainly not an easy job doing it at 9 o'clock at night when no one else is working and you don't know how you're going to solve something because someone's asked you something in the public domain and people are jumping on it and you don't quite know how to position it. It's not an easy place to be in, and sometimes as humans we do make mistakes, like I did. This is, I'll come back to that in a minute. This is called British Sugargate, really, really quickly. How many of you knew, answer this question for me, can you grow sugar cane in Britain?
No.
Thank you. No, you can't. That was the question I was asked at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. I had my coffee. Someone said, why do you not sell British cane sugar? I don't think that's fair. You should support British farmers. So I Googled, can you grow sugar cane in Britain, and the Google thingy came with the answer, no you can't, it's too cold. I double checked with my other half, who was in his pyjamas playing his PS4, and he was like, no, of course you can. So I responded and said, no, you can't, it's too cold. Well, apparently you can. It's not sugar cane, it's sugar beet. It's like a turnip that turns into sugar. I'm now an expert on this, because this went crazy, because this guy was a farmer, and he weren't too happy with me. So by the time I'd managed to get the PR team to answer their phone, it was in the Farmers Weekly. It was on the Farmers Union Facebook page. The National Farmers Union had made a statement about it. People were calling for me to be fired. And it went absolutely crazy. I very quickly realised that the fact that he'd said cane sugar had thrown me off, and all of the information around me about cane sugar, I was correct, but I didn't realise that beet sugar was a thing. And the real answer is because we've committed to fair trade sugar, and there's no such thing as fair trade British sugar because we're a developed nation. So had I said that, I probably would get quite in hot water. The point is, shit happens, and sometimes you can't get away from it. But if you've got a social media team and you empower them to make the decisions in the moment, and you give them as much resource and information as possible at any given time to be a bit of an expert on just about everything they could possibly be asked, and listen to them when they come to you and say, I'm being asked about something, plastic, I need some more answers because the ones I've got are not working. That's really, really, really important. I had more examples of stuff of late that just make you do this. Yeah, the emoji worked, but I've not got time. I'll just quickly end on this one because it was quite recent. The Virgin Trains East Coast thing. Oh, bless their heart. Again, like, it's not fair to just say we're going to fire this person because they're detracted from our brand and how dare they? Because at the end of the day, that person is part of an organisation that apparently has not put enough effort behind considering tone of voice, but also the climate of social media around things like misogyny. That's not that person's fault necessarily, that's Virgin Train's fault. So things like this can happen, and things like this do go viral, but if we prepare social media teams and we educate them on the broader spectrum of the business, then hopefully that shouldn't happen too often. Thank you very much. Were there questions?
I don't know. Are there any
there
questions? Is there any time? Does anybody have anything they want to ask Jordan? Or should we save it for over a glass of wine or a beer in a minute? Let's do that, shall we? Jordan, thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, I'm going to hold on to this thing.